This entire Epstein thing is a test of the Trump administration's ability of framing and positioning. Trump is really, really good at framing and positioning. You know what? Scratch that. Never mind. He's not that good. He's really bad at it, actually. What's really good is that the right-wing media is really, really good at taking his nuggets and positioning them out to the world so that they can just kind of read through the little tiny things, right? So he famously tweeted Kofefi or something, and everybody's like, that's 4D chess. He basically says whatever he wants to at any point and just hopes that it lands somewhere. So he can this week say that he was very surprised when Jerome Powell was appointed to the Fed, even though Trump himself appointed Jerome Powell to the Fed. Trump doesn't really suffer any embarrassment, it seems, and if he does, he hides it very well, so it doesn't really matter, right? So he just tries and says a bunch of different things, which is what he's doing with Epstein. Here's the backdrop. Basically, a host of grifters, a host of right-wing grifters, have made the list, Jeffrey Epstein, a number one priority. Now, they have said that the release of that was something that they very much cared about, and that Trump was the only person who was going to release that information. It wasn't released for a long time because there's a current active case against Maxwell, and so releasing all of this information will hurt the witnesses because they don't want to be told who they are and harassed. So it will actually hurt the witnesses. So there's a good reason to not release this list while Ghislaine Maxwell is actually has her appeal going. So there's very real good reason why this is not happening. But a bunch of grifters said if Trump won, that list would be released. And so then they're not very good at this, and Pam Bondi said the list is on my desk and I'm going to release it, right? So they're not that clever about this. So now we're at the point where it's like, we're going to release the list. But there's some people who don't want that to be released. And these grifters are now, the grifters used to say they don't want the list to be released, but the grifters are now the they in the scenario, right? So that they are the they that they would say back. I know there's a lot of theys in this, but back years ago, they would say, these grifters would say, they don't want you to see the list. Now, it's actually the grifters who are the they in this instance. And so they're trying to be surrounded by conspiracy theorists who want to see the list released. So in this, Trump has tried a bunch of different tactics. He's explored a bunch of different tactics. So the very first one is ignore. Why are you talking about this? No one cares about this. Why are you even, who cares, right? Call. They've actually called a bunch of media operations and said, please stop talking about this. They called Rupert Murdoch and said, please don't run the story. And the Wall Street Journal still ran the story. So they're not even shy about the fact that they've called a bunch of right-wing media people and said, please stop talking about this. Fox News talked about it a lot. Trump called. Fox News stopped talking about it a lot. Now, Rupert Murdoch's Wall Street Journal still posted about the drawing and the letter for Jeffrey Epstein's 50th birthday, and now they're getting sued. Anyway, third is blame. This is a hoax by the Democrats. The hoax meme has worked so well for Trump. He is every attack on him is a hoax, whether it's a Russia, or this or that or whatever. Hoax is great because the fake news always gives a hoax. So he's always got this one. The hoax one almost always works. What the problem with this one is that if the Democrats came up with a hoax, it's really weird that they waited this long to release their hoax. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. Again, Trump doesn't think these things through. He just says things. So it's not like he's thought through, like, why would they do a hoax for 8 years? Anyway, deflect is his next one. Deflect is a really simple one. Why don't you care about Crooked Hillary or this or that? You're going to read somewhere that they're probably going to try to, the administration is probably going to try to arrest Barack Obama. Trump went after Rosie O'Donnell. Again, it's like the call on the greatest hits that you possibly can. This is all just deflect, try to distract, and then finally denounce. Anyone who cares about this stuff is dumb. That's when you announce it. Like, how could you care about this stuff? If you care about this stuff, you are dumb. I just don't think that you're smart if you care about this stuff. That's what Trump is saying. Now, has any of this stuff worked? Well, it's confusing because it's all over the place. And this is why this one is a little bit different, because usually Trump says a bunch of stuff and the right-wing media kind of coalesce around the one thing that's going to work, and they're very disciplined about it. The problem with this one is that there are a bunch of grifters who have said that the reason that they're with Trump is because Trump is going to like figure out the cabal of elites who are abducting young kids and having sex with them. That's the true belief, right? So for Trump to just say, ignore all this, don't worry about it, it runs afoul of QAnon. It runs afoul of the true believers who are like, sure, he might grab him by the pussy. Sure, the terrorists might not be that great. Sure, it's not awesome that food is dying in the fields because we're abducting people off the streets and shifting them to El Salvador. At least he's going after the pedos, right? So the problem is that this was the line in the sand. This is the line in the sand. And it's also, the other problem is that all the different things that Trump has tried, the right-wing media can't figure out which narrative to pull. They've tried all the different ones, right? Charlie Kirk said, I'm moving on. I don't care about this anymore. Some other people said, I imagine it's the Democrats who are responsible for this. They're trying every single angle that Trump has thrown out there. The problem is, none of them make any sense. And people can see that. People can see that none of this makes any sense. So the reason why this one is hitting, unlike all the other ones, and honestly, there have been so many but the reason that this one seems to be hitting is because the right wing is splintered in their disciplined message to try to explain this. It's not easy to explain, and they're having a really hard time explaining it. And that's because of the framing. They can't frame this as something that you should ignore, that is a hoax, that is not as important as something else. And it's just like the longer it goes on, the worse it's going to get. Anyway, that's my opinion. We'll talk to you later. Bye.